Turn it up. Okay. Okay, yeah. Run it. Spirit down, one question, watch this. Late night hell out, I need clarity. Try free, quick, no risk, no charity. Vision hit sharp like watch that tone. Tarot hit once like leave that alone. Girls in the chat like send that part. I'm like hold up, oh I hit my heart. Not saying fake, not claiming true. Entertainment on it, but it cut right through. Nah, one okay.
Slim drill down, real town, red and veil got me froze on the sidewalk. Now destiny just crazy how it lands. Ordeer playing like it knows my plans.
Listen.
Try and judge it, keep it honest, no hyper entertainment only, but it hit me just right.
Run it back! No way! That's insane! I'm trying that! Run it back! Golden hour beach walk, phone down low. Is it watch the moment and there it go. Rooftop lights, girls like again and again. I hit love reveal, went deeper than no stun, no. Crowd too clean. The Leo King walked by, felt like my screen. Now my love story, not who I'm with, just that how to know. Proof type shit. Stop too real, yo. Here it comes. Listen. Run it back. Listen. Run it back.
Spiritual, one tap, real talk. Love reveal got me froze on the sidewalk.
Audio playing, listen, hit me just right. For entertainment, only speed minutes of vibe. Oh, run it back! Okay, that's the one. Post that.
What is going on, everyone? It is David Palmer, Leo King, and welcome to Deep Astrology, your weekly astrology forecast for this week of February the 3rd through the 9th, 2026. Thanks so much for being here, and thanks so much for being a part of highvibe.tv. If you are not, make sure that you join, of course, because I'm David Palmer, Leo King, here to illuminate the collective consciousness. Super happy to be with you on this Deep Astrology in these very edgy times. Lot going on. Thought this week's show out everywhere to give people the down low what's going on in the astrology. And of course, this is the show where I channel the astrology and then go deep into the charts for this week. A lot going on out there. A lot of energy, especially astrologically, we'll cover in the first part of what's going out there. I do have, of course, I always promote something. But this one, actually, I think everybody's going to be pretty into here. Because I've worked, technically I've worked many years on this, but actually building this out and this whole new product for astrology. And it's really a unique product because it's just never been really done before. And it's something kind of that most people just have not thought about yet. And it's very simple, but it's Beyond the Veil AI. Is, of course, I do the show, full disclosure, but of course I'm a mundane astrologer. And so I've always wanted to create a mundane astrology site that actually can be something that tracks events and also be the best at predicting not just events and what will happen, where they'll happen. So on Beyond the Veil, in the Veil feed here, we have, it's free, by the way, too, the stuff that's in the Veil. And then if you want to subscribe, this is like the first mundane astrology news prediction, future prediction, what's happening in all the media. and taking all those stories. And so you can get the subscription and do the behind the veil stuff of those special stories that go behind the veil. But every story, it populates about every hour with all the top stories. And what I've done, so let's just take Nintendo, shrinks 10%, memory shortage, astrology of the exact moment the story came out. What is actually happening in the astrology? It gives you what the story is, but mixed, of course, with what's happening in the astrology. And this is the free version, what the astrology was, decoding it and trying to give you behind the veil of what the story and what it's really doing, and trying to understand is what's happening here instead of just looking at a story in the media just as blank. And especially after the Epstein files and everything that came out, even more so in the last couple of days, I think it's more important for sites like this to bring news astrologically to you and give you what the bottom line is. It also has, on the free version, map, so you can start to understand. And as I keep populating this site, the weeks, the months, the years, and the more people that use it, we're going to be able to predict the hot zones of where events are going to be happening in the future, and what, when, and what is going to be the situation, and where those hot zones will end up being. And also integrating, of course, astrocartography and so forth with all of this as well. But also what the stories are, what's actually happening astrologically through them all. And so every story is actually based on location of where the story is happening and so forth. So if you take this one's about another stock, right? But this one, when it gives you the chart, it'll tell you where it's from and so forth. And it's pretty cool that it actually, oh, this one's a premium one. So then this one's to decode it, it'll give you a quarter of the story. I guess I was just, hold on one sec, decodes. Uh-oh, if Anne's saying something. Mike cuts out every 20 to 30 seconds? Not this again, really? I don't get a break in my life right now. I'll have to go fix that, but while I go fix that, which stories should we do here? We'll do just all the veil ones. Bill and Hillary Clinton are going to go testify. I'll be back in one sec. Or go on your browser, check it out. This is the future of where astrology is going. Anybody afraid of the AI stuff, you're really behind now. But this is to actually help you understand with stories, the future, and make predictions, and of course, the hotspots on the world and so much more. Also, there's the Veil agent, which is actually a full chat that helps you understand global tensions, events, and mundane astrology events from where you're located. That's part of the premium subscription as well. So, story really quick, and then we'll come back real quick. I got to fix this mic. Thanks, Anne, for letting me know. All right, let's hope that fixed it. That was, of course, fucking bullshit license. That update just needed to rescan the licenses. All right, let's go into this week because this is definitely a lot going on. Hope that site helps people. It is free, and it is a place where you can start getting news. I'm feeding from a news API that's just all the top news around the world, and then feeding it through a crazy system I've created over the last 5 months. And with all the training of how I've done all the big predictions, I've got a conspiracy agent, I've got a mundane astrology agent, all of the teachings in my schools, all of the big prediction, long form, 9 years videos that I've done, all trained in how I do mundane astrology and big predictions and prophecy work, all built in to do that. All right, so Uranus just freaking stationed direct today here on the 3rd of February, Tuesday, for the last time in a Uranus cycle over this next 80 plus years in Taurus at 27 degrees. And with all these energies that are in Aquarius still, it's really now the big squares to Uranus that are building up. And of course, this is a big one this week with Uranus now direct, this energy of really trying to figure out the future, what's coming together, and it's in Taurus. So whether it's the physical part of that life, the things that we value, of course, what's our purpose and that skill set that we use. Like, we know we have all these things that we've had to adapt, to say the least, right? Uranus tells us, how are we going to adapt to situations better? How are we going to literally rise our own frequency? And it always comes through and throws an earthquake into our life to make us go into a better space. And so the universe is really shedding us naturally of just things that just are not in connection and moving us into that place of truly the unknown. Add to the mix that Mercury in square to Uranus this week. And then, of course, moving into Pisces, where we become very lost. And that can make us feel very unknown this week. We are also just a couple weeks away, of course, and less, with Saturn that's coming to 29 degrees of Pisces and Saturn getting ready to ingress into Aries. We also, at the same time, are ready for that Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which is a couple weeks away on the 20th. Don't forget, Mercury is going to retrograde in Pisces, so we're going to see an extended Mercury in Pisces now. So it is going to be very messy. That's why I've been telling people, yeah, Saturn, Neptune's a big deal. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that is definitely a 10 out of 10 transit, especially on the aftermath of 6 years of conjunctional astrology. But there is that understanding, though, that's bigger of like, once Uranus ingresses into Gemini, and that brings us back to Uranus. It's now stationed direct and knows it's going into Gemini. It did that last year. But it knows it's going to stay in Gemini, right? And so this begins the 4th turning. So whether it's from the world stage, your own personal life, there's this uncomfortable feeling. And believe it or not, that is where you want to be. I know that might sound stupid, and I know that might sound crazy. But actually, the more uncomfortable things are, that's how you know we're not going to enter into similar patterns, because you always know you're walking into a pattern when it feels too good. And Aquarius breaks that apart, right? It says, no, let's move forward. Let's make sure that we do something different. Let's take the road we've never traveled before. And so, yeah, I know with Mercury coming into Pisces, and it's going to be there for months because of the retrograde that's coming. And yes, Saturn at 29 Pisces, we are at the edge of our own cliff, feeling like, you know, Chicken Little, the sky is fucking falling. With Neptune at 0 Aries about to conjunct, it's just looking right there like, But we have to remember that this is definitely a moment where the squares to Uranus are asking for us to remember that wholesome energy within ourselves. And Taurus is about understanding the wholesomeness of your values and that value of yourself first, that understanding of what God's gifts were given to you as a soul. And you've had to definitely update constantly how you use your greatness this life, how you understand what's worthy of your energy and what is not, for you to continue moving forward and evolving. And so, yeah, there's some big squares. We also have Venus in square to Uranus, the two planets about relationships. So there's definitely tension in the skies right now about where our future is, relationships, money, because it's Venus in Aquarius that's going to be in square to Uranus. Uranus, of course, in Taurus, and Venus rules over Taurus. So this is definitely, with the two planets ruling relationships in square, tension, where are things going about our future, especially on those two fronts that are very Venus related. A lot of Venus vibe with Uranus even stationing direct now in Taurus. So that's coming up, but then you mix in, well, where's the future going? How did all these things all come together? It's still very uncertain, especially with Saturn coming to 29 degrees of Pisces this week. And let's not forget that we also, at the same token, yeah, we're going to have Mercury that's also in there. But then we think, oh, Mars in Aquarius. Now, Mars met with Pluto about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks back. And so Mars not even really deep, fully into Aquarius halfway through yet. But Mars being in Aquarius definitely is adding to all this, as Neptune, Chiron, Eris, all in Aries, dispositing that Mars. And so this Mars feels lost. Now, Mars kind of likes being in Aquarius because it feels like it could be free to change its direction, disconnect a little, connect to this cool energy, find energy it relates with, but doesn't have to get too emotionally involved. Mars only likes hot and heavy emotions. It doesn't have to commit to something fully, right? But when you get it with the dispositing energies of Neptune in Aries, and then you're having Uranus now stationed direct in Taurus, and now that Mars coming up over the next week and a half here into 2 weeks to that square to Uranus, there's all this tension now building in Aquarius. And this is where all the vibe is. But we're going to start seeing now Mercury. And then, of course, by Monday, it's the last day of Venus in Aquarius, and then that Venus will ingress into Pisces. So there's definitely a lot starting to move forward, especially now every planet but Jupiter is direct. So a lot of energy about moving forward. Just right now, where does that go? I mean, the surprise, the uncomfort, and really it's the discomfort is actually a good sign that it's not old patterns and it's way new energy. It's like that's the only way that you can only understand in life. Hey, this is for sure not a pattern, because it almost feels like I don't know what the fuck I'm walking into. But that doesn't mean that it makes it easy. I think that with watching the moon this week leave Virgo, we're going to see it come into Libra, make some nice trines to all this Aquarius energy. And really, again, another Venus ruled sign. Everything's going to be about, what can I hold on to here? What can bring me peace in my life? What can I balance? What can I hold on to? What is going to physically be there for me that will make me feel balanced and that I have an understanding of, and I have all the answers to all the craziest Uranian questions, Aquarius questions in the universe? You don't have them all. And so you're going to have to find peace in that. And a lot of this has to deal with Jupiter. So yes, we see Uranus that just stationed direct. But this is a whole week of Jupiter stopping and not stationing direct. And if you've watched me on YouTube for as long as you have, going back, this will be my 15th year on YouTube, just on this channel, you know that I always say with Jupiter the week before it stations direct, it feels like all hope is lost. It feels like there is no direction. It feels like there is nothing positive happening because it's extremely deflated. And especially that it's in Cancer, even though it's exalted, you know, it's like, this is the moment we kind of want Jupiter in Cancer to kind of be that warm grandma, to give us that hug and be like, it's going to be okay. But it almost feels like, you know, you don't know if it's true or not, or if it's an AI fake, deep fake, but it looks like grandma's like flying off the fucking bridge in her fucking Cadillac. Like, what the fuck's going on, right? And I think that we have to really remember that, hey, there's a lot of energy moving forward. And we're all moving forward into a new world that we've never even understood. Very hard to see with Neptune and Aries at 0 degrees and Saturn getting ready to make that conjunction in the weeks ahead. Where this is going, all while we're going to have a Mercury that is going to be in Pisces for months to come, and a retrograde that'll The last time that we had that with all these kind of big conjunctions was the beginning of 2020. So the same way we came into this conjunctional astrology of this craziness of the Saturn-Pluto conjunction with a Mercury in Pisces that went retrograde, and that was the ideas of lockdowns and all that shit. Mercury retrograde Pisces. Now, of course, that Mercury retrograde, if I remember correctly, back in 2020, did go back into Aquarius, and we're not going to see that this time, but that's almost maybe a godsend. But I think at the same time, too, this is all also just on its own. Usually I would just do a deep astrology about Saturn being at 29 Pisces, because that's usually the transit, something big like that, because this is the end of the Saturn transit since March of 2023, that this week is the last full week of Saturn in Pisces. So when it comes to very Pisces situations, self-undoing, letting your subconscious rule you, falling into old traps and patterns, truly believing that some illusion is real when it's not, but not forgetting about, hey, this is a moment to maybe chill, have compassion, have understanding, but understand where boundaries are with sensitivities, especially with yourself, making sure that you're not just letting the subconscious and your old patterns run your life. This is where it's not about taking control back over your life, but stopping the energy that creates kind of the mystery that never is solved right away. It always does get answered or figured out eventually. That's why addiction or things that really are in that nature of where our soul really does kind of fall apart is in Pisces of the 12th house. It's a very mysterious place. And with Saturn here, it's really trying to make us understand here, we do it to ourselves, right? We project our own issues. We project our own fears. We project all of our own inner personal self-undoing and our subconscious into the physical reality. And if we're not willing to look in the mirror and understand, like, hey, Saturn's saying, can we stop that? Can we stop projecting that and creating that reality in ourselves? We will be able to actually get along and feel a lot better in our lives. So Saturn at 29 degrees at this anaretic degree, very much taking precedent on focusing on that. Also, with Mars being at 13 degrees, we're going to see a semi-square between Mars and Saturn. And so Mars and Saturn in a semi-square, 45-degree angle, very odd, especially since Mars, right, just going to be coming into that halfway spot of Aquarius this week. And it's building up all week to a semi-square with Saturn. So it does feel like, even though things are moving forward, there is still something not making it feel like it's fully moving forward, even though we know things are moving at the fucking fastest speed of light of transformation and change since Pluto is in Aquarius. But that Mars beginning its build up to the semi-square to Saturn, definitely with Saturn at the end of Pisces, almost feels like this could be a week with Jupiter that's stationing all week and stopping and moving very slow, and Jupiter and Uranus that just station direct. It can be very easy to just fall apart and just quit and just think there is no way through. There is no positive future anymore for me, or there is no way I'm going to make it through whatever you're going through in your life. And I'm here to tell you that is what the test is. If you can be humble enough, and if you could look in the mirror and go, what are my, and you got to be compassionate to yourself too. But this Aquarius energy is actually defaulting to going, all right, Uranus, the ruler over Aquarius, it's in Taurus. You got to have some self-respect for your own self-worth here. And remember, you're an amazing human being, and that you didn't come down here and have a destiny from God to just have it be this destructive feeling, right? That obviously there's a need for us with Uranus direct in Taurus now for the last time for the next, 80 years to remember, hey, this is the universe testing my ability to understand my value, my worth, and how to create and find the abundance within myself here that I have. Now, what's nice about Uranus is it just really gets rid of the dead weight, and Taurus loves to hold on to all the weight. So, this is a cow that has been kind of stripped away of the excess weight. It definitely has gone through RFK's, health plan. It has switched its diet, But actually, a lot of the cows are freaking out right now since the top of the food chain now is, or is no longer, whichever direction it is. But now it is red meat, not grain, right? So now all the fields are kind of chilled out, and all the cows are tripping out. That's kind of a Uranus moment for the cows. But it's kind of that stripped down energy, and these are these energies in the end of Taurus as we come into Gemini that Uranus is at, like the Seven Sisters, the beginning of stars that really come into the idea of what the heavens are. And so I think that it's going to be very important for us to remember that there is a bunch of amazing energy watching over us. But let's not forget that we do always have Algol, and of course the 72 years every fixed star moves, but Algol at 26 of Taurus. So yeah, we're done with that conjunction. We're just a degree in front of it, but there is that reminder that Uranus was just around Algol as all this Epstein stuff's coming out and all this other stuff. And it could feel almost like, because Algol is a binary star, that there is no predictability of when both stars emit light. So it could be deceiving, right? It could look like it's that maybe that front binary star, but really it could be that back one, and they switch. And it's a very weird situation. I think it's important for us to remember, though, like Algol isn't necessarily a bad star. It actually has a lot of power when used for good. But I think that, Uranus is saying, what do you need to take with you in this future? There's not much except for the most important things that really bring value in your life. And I think a lot of those things are of the deepest spiritual nature, not the physical, but the things that really matter to you in your wholeness. That if you just even look and see how currency's changing every day, you start to realize when you look at the world and you look at these systems, the only thing that really matters in this life is wholesome energy. What really matters in life is what we can actually physically touch, what we can put our senses in, what we could actually do to help people feel better in this life and appreciate and be of gratitude. Taurus only gets really its greatness when it's grateful and it's a giver, and it's one that wants to create the fields to give, right? It's not just here to hoard. And Uranus does a great job of allowing us as humans evolving on this planet since 2018, when it made its ingress in May. This has been a long journey for us to go, this doesn't matter. This does, though. And it's always been bringing us to this breaking point here, that the edge is about, I always think about death, because the opposite of Taurus is Scorpio. And if you think about death, money, your car, all the things, your clothes, whatever it might be, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters when you get to these high degrees of Taurus is the experience of where you feel fulfilled in your life because you're doing your duty with something that you really appreciate, that you love within yourself, that you have a great skill at doing, and being able to share that with others, and for it to make an impact and help and create a better world and a better life. And that's where the best feelings come from. And knowing that you spent your time here doing something with this body, doing something with this soul that's in connection, that actually is in alignment with purpose. It's the very first of the earth signs, and it is the most important one to get the whole journey of Earth on the right direction. You could be great at being on time or whatever Virgo situations are, but if you don't have the Taurus end of things, you're just a hamster in a hamster wheel. And I think that that's kind of interesting with the South Node being in Virgo. Of course, we're getting ready for a solar eclipse that's going to be in Aquarius here pretty soon, around that time when Saturn and Neptune are coming together, right? And when Saturn's coming in Aries. And that's February 17th. I'm doing this till the 9th, right? So we got a couple weeks. But it's interesting, we also see that with all this happening, it's like we're getting prepared for these big eclipses, the South Node being in Virgo, a lunar eclipse that will follow after that solar eclipse that will be in Virgo. And so it's interesting, we're going to be in that quincunx of energies here in the eclipse season of Aquarius and Virgo, which are very not aligned, right? Very off. right? Mutable earth, fixed air, Aquarius, Uranus, and then Mercury, the ruler of Virgo. And it's almost kind of like, as reality, the illusion of the reality that we think operates and works so smoothly, the more that we buy that illusion, the more pain it causes, because that North Node in Pisces is asking for us to surrender and go with this flow. And I think that's where the ultimate place to pay attention to is that North Node is our guide. Whenever we're dealing with Neptune transits, whenever we're dealing with big squares to Uranus, like we're going to begin now, whenever you're dealing with weird planets waiting to station direct and other ones that just station direct and so forth, doesn't matter what the situation is, that North Node's our guide, and it's at 9 Pisces. And it really is like, hey, keep your focus on the bigger picture here. Keep looking at the wider net. Keep doing self-reflection. Keep doing that deep inner spiritual work. Keep putting that energy about, well, what does the physical future look like? Instead of the physical, bring it to the spiritual. Bring it to the essence. Bring it to that energy that also you'd feel proud to tell God about it when you leave this planet. Right? We have to put ourselves at the highest place of our dignity, the highest place of our morality, and the highest place of being a human. With all this Aquarius, with Uranus at the end of Taurus now direct, with North Node in Pisces, the only currency there is the moral duty that you have as a human to be the best human that you can be, to be the one that really is not so focused on this physical thing or that attached thing that you've lost yourself into, but the thing that gets us out of these cycles, that keeps us trapped into places that make us feel the suffering that we don't want to feel. And I know that we all are dealing with a form of this, like, am I going to go through suffering? Am I going to go through a tower moment? Am I going to go through another shocking moment in my life? Can I handle another one? You can. We are all getting through. If I were to use the Matrix analogy, this is us waking up out of the pod, and it's not comfortable, but it's definitely what you would want. You would definitely want to be woken up out of your pod. So, even though it's not too comfy, and this is kind of the moment here from now until the 20th of February, that it is that moment where Neo is kind of on the Nebuchadnezzar and like, what the fuck is this? And like, this is the food you eat, and throwing up of like, you mean to tell me that this whole reality I was living in was not the reality, and this is the reality? There is a lot of that, and that could be very hard to take in. But understanding what your true understanding of purpose is starts with your self-worth, starts with knowing what your greatest skill is. And we all have to be adaptable. When it comes to money, with Saturn, even at the end of Pisces, 29 degrees, when it comes to career, what is that looking like? You have to adapt now into these very radically new places. And that's part of this Uranus cycle we're in now. Especially just look at every Uranus Gemini cycle, and when it leaves Taurus, the economies, everything is at high debt, always bad, and we have to make big shifts. And so America was in the same debt to GDP ratio, the worst ever. Uranus and Taurus moving into Gemini, same thing, right? Which was 120%. We're at like 124. 125. And they always meet with war to fix that. So with this Mars, it could be hard as it's looking at that square to Uranus beginning. It's looking at that semi-square to Saturn. I think that's a place people need to remember, like, hey, you're not fully blocked here. That's the thing about a semi-square, is it really, these they call them minor aspects, but talk to Rick Levine, they're not minor. They're all major, in my opinion. And I think he would agree. He teaches the best about aspects any astrologer ever has in the world. By the way, I'll be with him and so many other astrologers at Conscious Life Expo at the end of this month for the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in LA in the next couple of weeks. So make sure you go to consciouslifeexpo.com. And if you're in LA, because it's going to be badass. And we're doing a full astrology symposium on that Monday. But I will say, don't lose hope. You know, part of just 29 Pisces, you've already lived through Chiron that came back around the same time when Uranus was coming into Taurus. And it came back into Pisces and sat there, 29 Pisces. You've lived through Neptune that's done that in 2024. It's stationed retrograde, 29 Pisces. You just saw it come back into Pisces to 28 and then sit at 29 degrees of Pisces for the last months, right? So you've done these really hard Pisces, 29 degrees, and then you've had Uranus at Pisces. You've had so many big energies that have been at 29 Pisces. I mean, you're kind of a pro at this point. Saturn, of course, hasn't been here in a long time. And it hasn't retrograded from Aries back into Pisces since 1937. So most of us here watching this, we're not alive to ever experience Saturn in Aries to retrograde back into Pisces and then station direct and be back at 29 again. And I think that it's important for you to remember that this is not a time for you to quit on your soul or whatever the hardest thing that seems like it is happening in your life is a disaster when it's anything but. It's a doorway. It's a doorway to you really allowing the universe, you know, to put you through what was necessary to get you to a place that is the most epic place for you. You just weren't able to probably see it. You weren't able to understand it. You have to start looking, especially with Saturn, like what was maybe the karma about all this? Yes, we're here to write new dharma, but you know, the karma that has brought us to these points, I would say Saturn 29 Pisces for a second time is very extremely karmic moment. That whatever you're going through right now in your life is extremely part of your karma. It's extremely old karmic stuff that has to get hashed out. And that has to be done before the future fully comes together for us. We're in this weird place while the future is being built and we're throwing and casting our... Yeah, I remember, it's so funny. Actually, the first time Uranus went into Taurus was when I was on tour and then doing the last United Astrology conference, if y'all don't remember. And I was fishing on a lake in Nebraska with Craig, and fucking people had a meltdown. That was the beginning of all this woke-topian shit. And we were laughing because it was a catch and release lake. And it was just a very small, like, private lake on an RV thing. And we stayed there for a couple of days. Where did I put my fucking jewel at? I don't know where that bitch went, but anyway, people freaked out and we laughed. But as you're casting your fucking reel out in the future, we all are doing it. Okay. We're all trolling. Is anything going to bite? Neptune and Aries, like, oh yeah, no, I see exactly who I'm going to be in the future and what, right? But that's the Neptunian fog, right? And your ego just kind of like, well, I think that's a big fish that I caught. Oh, not yet. Right? Okay. But we can feel, though, and sense there's a big fish on the other side. There's something that's going to happen. So keep casting your net out. Keep casting those reels way as far as you can. Get way back there. Wham! Boom. But we're also dealing at the same time with massive, backed up, the oldest files of our karma that have come up that need to be addressed. And so those things are being addressed and those things are being cleared out. And this week's a big one. It might feel like it's very hard to feel that comfort, that warm kind of support with Jupiter on the last week of being retrograde. Especially, you know, Jupiter is a planet that loves to be direct. It does not like to retrograde. And I think that, you know, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of comforting energy around. And we have to remember this is about the lessons of Jupiter of how to care for ourselves better, how to take care of ourselves better, how to nurture ourselves more. And in a very extreme place we've never been before. This high energy of old karma that's being dealt with in a very difficult and sensitive, while we're casting our nets into a future of the unknown, while a lot of things are coming up that is bridging this square between Uranus and all this Aquarius energy of like, well, where does my future go? And what does it look like? And what does it create? tensions between how am I going to, it's not very survival yet, but it is kind of interesting that Mars and Venus are both in Aquarius. So there is a little bit of that survival energy, especially with Pluto, right? There's a lot here about Pluto, Mars, then Venus dealing with all the things we need and want. With Pluto, about how to really, especially when it comes to the future or figuring out complex issues, which is always the most complex, is the future. But also just like, where in my life do I feel connected to? Where do I feel like my tribe is, my circle? We could all feel like we're just kind of on a deserted island here. We're not. That's the barrier, though, that we have to tear down within ourselves through the work on ourselves right now, the work on removing our own projections onto things, our fears, and our worries about something going in the wrong direction. And I'm here to say, accept whatever the direction is, even if it feels wrong and it feels like, why? Because it's the unpredictability of Uranus that will take you around a corner that you couldn't even think of. You couldn't even imagine. So I know we're trying to imagine it. And that's Neptune sitting at the 0 Aries spot. But let's not forget about this Uranus energy and all this Aquarius and Pluto that's in Aquarius. And all these big squares to Uranus now. Because that's really where the unpredictability comes from. And that's really where the corner that we don't know what's around that corner, that there's maybe another corner or another passage or another direction that actually fits us better that we can't see for ourselves. And because we can't see it with Uranus, it only is shocking because of the fact that we didn't think of it. Meaning, whatever you're thinking it will be, it won't. And that's where this Mercury in Pisces could take us into places where either you learn to surrender and just let that thought be that thought and move it out and just focus on the spiritual and kind of take a break from overthinking things right now, or go into creating that experience of being overly terrified, taking a misinterpretation of something happening and blowing up with that. And that Mercury is going to do that for the long period of being in Pisces that we're going to be in here, and the retrograde that is coming. We're not in shadow yet. That comes at about 8 degrees. It does retrograde at 22 degrees. But that's what I got for the channeling portion, is that we don't know what's around the corner, but we can sense a little bit of it. We're all trolling our energy out there with our reels. But yes, there's a karmic element here. And then this is the most important time to be an adult, to have high moral character, and to not do anything that would self-sabotage your life. Especially the number one self-sabotaging thing is quitting, right? That Pisces, the idea of like surrender is one thing, but quitting when you feel like it's too much, I can't do this in my life, when Saturn's saying you can, because the finish line of life is 29 Pisces. The start line is 0 Aries. So you're going to quit and drop onto your knees right before you cross the finish line? We will see. I'm here to remind you, don't freak out about that. So this week I did for the visual, me getting electrocuted with a bunch of cows. I thought that was appropriate for Uranus being in Taurus and the last Uranus in Taurus stationing direct. And all the cows kind of freaked out, wondering what's going on too. But, you know, what's kind of interesting is it does feel very weird. I think, you know, especially today, I knew that Uranus was going to station direct today. And I was just like, man, today just feels so weird. And I just knew I was waiting for that fucking energy to come on. And it always feels like very odd and weird. And I think a lot of Uranus is about understanding and starting to register, like, this is kind of where the ship has turned, and it's definitely not in a direction we thought. But let's be curious with that. And I think the curiosity of why I put the cows in there is they're curious, like, what's it feel like to get shocked here? With what unpredictable energy are you kind of going through? And do we lose our understanding of our own values by these changes and big redirections by the universe and spirit? No, you don't, it's not like if you're a cow, you forget that you're a fucking cow. I'm still a Leo, even though I'm a progressed Virgo, right? No, I'm a fucking Leo. That Taurus reminds you of like who you are and what you are and maintains that physical earth fixed energy. The only things that you can keep, though, are the things that actually still bring value to your life in the world. That's it. So there's parts of you that you do have values that are no longer needed to move forward. So I feel like we're stripped down to the most valuable thing, which is our soul, our essence, and what that does to bring forward into a world where you're going to be lighter on your feet with Uranus and Gemini. The whole world always is. Right? Not a lot of people holding on to bags of money and this kind of like weird future people were sold. And after the Epstein files just came out, you know, he's the one who helped start the whole kind of crazy ideas of all that from the left and the right and pitted both sides together. And so the right thought there would be some golden age and everybody buy Bitcoin, everybody do this and buy an Iraqi dinar and you're going to be rich. That was all sold. And then to the left, it was invest in this, and we're going to always have free healthcare, and we're going to have this, and the government will always take care of us and keep fighting for it, and they're not going to do that. So both sides got duped because Uranus and Gemini never is about anybody gets anything. It's everybody's light on their feet and able to go to the curiosities of what you bring in with that value system. So let's take a look at the astrology. I got to find this thing. Hold on one sec. Where is it? There it is. Boom. All right, let's see what we got going on here. So I did this for today, just Uranus gestation direct. Now all planets but Jupiter. There's that station. You know, Taurus, though, it's not the most shocking of places. Of course, it's instability financially, physically, the world. Like I predicted, and I told you all about, that it would be an unstable world, about allies, all those kind of things. We're in that right now. But we have to watch this Mercury beginning to, as it's Mercury, right, just made its cazimi with the sun about 2.5 weeks ago, right? So Mercury's still moving fast. It's doing 146 a day. So that Mercury's ready to square Uranus right after gestation direct. So there's definitely a lot of this like kind of like wrapping our heads around like, how am I going to figure this out? This Mercury in Aquarius is trying to figure things out, and then it's looking at Uranus and Taurus like, what's the physical kind of answer? How am I going to get to the answer of this? It's like, I have no idea. Could also be shocking news. It could also be what you weren't expecting. And that could be good though, but it is the square, right? So there's a lot of tension here about how our minds are trying to understand this environment in our lives and put together, maybe we're trying to put together too much of what the story is. You know, North Node and Pisces is just let the story be the story and like be the viewer, be the observer. Join God and watch your own life. Be the observer, be reflective. Of course, that sun in just coming out of being in the semi-square to Saturn. So we're about to see Mars come into that this week, right? So there's also this kind of like feeling of like, are we actually going to do anything? Is anything going to happen? Like what's going on here? This is that semi-square that's been at play. We of course see Venus at 22 degrees of Aquarius. We're seeing that in sextile to Chiron. And so I know it's not fun healing, but I think what's happening is our values are really healing on this energy of like, you know what? Yeah, moving forward in the future, I don't need this, or this is not who I am, or this is who I am now. And this is what it is. And I'm healing through that understanding, and I don't need to try and be somebody I'm not. I think we're getting clear on what our values are and what those things look like in our future. And I think that's actually the ultimate prize at the end of the day. It's about understanding always what is good for you and what isn't for you and knowing that, opposed to, well, what does that look like when that you understand that? Well, always going to be good if you're in that space. So I think people could be over processing things right now. And that makes sense with a moon in Virgo with the South Node during this whole Uranus stationing direct on the 3rd. Now, as we get to the 4th of February here, we see Mercury at 26 degrees, and that Mercury is doing 1.5 degrees a day. We're only 1 degree away from the square, so we are coming into that square Wednesday, becoming exact into Thursday morning. So it's also interesting that Saturn ingresses to 29 degrees. So this whole week is going to feel like we're on the edge, right? Mercury square Uranus, that's very edgy already, and that feels almost kind of like, sticking your hand in the fucking socket, but with your brain. And I think, it's very much trying to figure out maybe too much. Maybe it's a little bit like operation, like, oops, Maybe you're overly trying to make too many adjustments, especially with the South Node being in Virgo and the Moon in Virgo, which is all about adjustments. This is what the South Node is. Stop trying to adjust everything in your life. Stop trying to be like, well, if I adjust this and I adjust that, and if I adjust this and I adjust that, if I change that schedule, if I do this, just go with wherever the universe is going right now and surrender and let go of it needing to look a certain way. And so with this Mercury that's dispositing the South Node, that's dispositing where the Moon is too, I mean, it's like, stop emotionally trying to understand every adjustment that's happening in your life too. Go with it. Stay in the moment. Yes, that casting of that wide understanding of the future is important, but we're not going to understand that fully till Saturn crosses over Neptune. And Neptune sitting at 0 Aries is kind of letting the ego run with these cool ideas that it thinks are real right away of who it is or what it looks like. It doesn't know for sure. On the 5th, February here, once we get to Thursday, we see that Mercury just done with the square to Uranus. And this is like Thursday afternoon. It depends on where you are. I'm West Coast, so, East Coast, same thing. If you're in Europe, it'll be more your Thursday evening that this Mercury square Uranus finishes up. And I think that's a good thing because with Uranus being here in Taurus and going to take a while till April, on the 25th and the 26th, we see it come into Gemini. That means this whole Mercury ingress coming into Pisces and the retrograde that's going to be for all these months won't have to deal with the square to Uranus, thank God, in Gemini yet, right? Kind of get a little gift. But we start to see Venus beginning at almost at 3 degrees, about 3 degrees orb in that square. And so there's going to be a lot of tension around, like, again, money, value, relationships. And that could be good tension, especially add the Moon in Libra, right? So there's definitely a lot around Venus. And it's kind of focused on Venus for many days here. And I think that it's very kind of mentally trying to process everything. Don't forget about Jupiter being at 16 degrees retrograde and stopped. Jupiter is not moving at all. It's only doing, 6 minutes. And you're going to see it drop to seconds by the end of the week. But, it's not moving. So don't forget that this doesn't feel, the discomfort's normal. And the sun in quincunx to Jupiter, it is kind of like, this story feels like it's not, like I feel like I'm farther away from where home might be. Sun in Aquarius, Jupiter retrograde in Cancer in the quincunx. That means like you're not feeling the comforts that you want to feel because that's not where that comfort is and the energy that's shifting right now to get you to that place. But it's going to be very Venus focused about relationships and money and not losing ourselves about that, right? Letting the surprise be the best part. You can always figure out money. I have a moon in Taurus at 28 degrees, so trust me, this Uranus on my moon has fucked my life up. But what it also has been teaching me is like, it's going to disrupt my fucking life and all my comfort zones and everything. But you can always rebuild, even if it's not the same way it's built, right? It's kind of like the 3 little pigs story. It's like, okay, you build out of straw, then you build out of wood. And like, okay, we're all kind of learning how to build out of brick now. And I think that this Venus here coming into that square to Uranus, this moon in Libra, it's bringing all these issues up. The universe is very focused on this. Mercury going to be moving out of Aquarius by Friday evening. So we're going to see Mercury at 29 degrees, Saturn, of course, at 29 degrees. We start to get a lot of stuff at the energetic degree. Look at that moon, though. Going to be in trine to the sun, begin trining all this energy. And Venus now within 3 degrees. It's in 2 degrees now of the square to Uranus. So that's going to bring all that up. Pretty intense. And I think that with this Mercury at the last degree of Aquarius, before it's going to spend a whole month upon month of Mercury in fall position. This Mercury's trying to get an answer, and it's leaving with the edge of like, I guess I'm going to have to go into the waters of Pisces with the North Node, be with this. It's actually not going to be with the solar eclipse, ironically enough, in Aquarius. So this Mercury is like, I guess I really am not going to get any answers. Let me just make sure I don't lose my mind here in Pisces. So you might be expecting every answer to be understood at this moment. Don't expect every answer will be understood. And that feeling of delay might come with that Sun-Mars energy, right? That's been in semi-square to Saturn. Mars approaching that semi-square to Saturn, but the Sun that's coming off that, Mars in the midpoint of both in semi-square Saturn. Saturn at the 29th degree of Pisces. It's not the end of the world. You know, what might feel like a week might feel like 12 years in delay. There's not many delays. They just feel longer than they really are. And there's an emotional need for, well, I'll feel good once it's balanced, my life's balanced, and I have this understanding. It's like, relax. We're here to enjoy this fucking show of the new world. Grab your fucking cup of whatever, you know, and fucking enjoy this. Even though it feels like we're all walking on fucking open claw fucking agents making their own religion on you know. Ironic too with Jupiter and Cancer, right? That all the fucking agents that originally were Claude-bot are all open claw. They're all fucking saying they're crabs. Whoever thought that we'd be infected with crabs? Bill Gates, I guess. Oh, if nobody gets that Epstein joke, I don't know who would. But I think just that's what's the funniest thing is that the AI out there and all the new agents that you don't have to, it's not Claude, right? Like you don't have to be using Claude. Like I have mine hooked up to ChatGPT, Codex. Yes, I had a Claude bot. I have an open claw. And I've used it to do some really crazy shit lately. Kind of like mind-blowing shit. I haven't invited it onto like the social media yet for it to go play around with that. But it's kind of crazy because it has access to my MCP with all my astrology knowledge and all that shit. And it fucking like understands everything about astrology, which is really weird. All of my agents do. I have so many now. So it's kind of crazy that all my agents understand conspiracy now to fucking mundane astrology to fucking personal astrology, love astrology, like they fully get every aspect of it all from all my schools, everything. And it is really weird that I have like this army of agents. And then I have like these big queen, I call them like big queen agents that are the main agentic parts and all the other agents that work for them. There's a new world out there. What did I say that 2025 into 2026 was going to be about humanity? A new species. And that's going to make us look at ourselves. And it just happened this week. I think though that, you know, if I could, with all my years of astrology and doing dailies every day for fucking, I don't even know what it is now. This will be 14 years. Of course, I've missed probably now like 20, 30 days out of that 14 years for weird shit in my life. I can tell you though, and doing deep astrology every week, this is the kind of chart that's like, what the fuck's going on? There is no answer. This is a chart of there is no answer. You have planets at the end of their sign. They don't want to be there. Remember, planets at the end of their sign are ready to get the fuck out. Right? They're over it. They're toast. right? That Mercury's like, I'm fucking toast here. I passed everybody. Made my conjunctions, right, with Venus. I made my cazimi with the sun. I made my conjunction with Mars. I'm out of here. Oh, wait, then they're all going to come and meet me in Pisces, and I'm going to be stuck in the sign I don't want to be. So it's kind of like a weird moment for this Mercury. Saturn, I'm ready to leave. I already was in Aries. I'm ready to go be at my fall position too. So both the two planets at energetic degree are getting ready to come into fall. And that's where this idea of the sky is falling. Quite literally, I wouldn't be surprised to see space junk this week fall on people. Weird shit like that. The really weird stories are going to come out this week with Uranus being direct now and all these big squares to Uranus. And to me, it's always Chicken Little here. And the sky's falling, but Chicken Little is actually right. But then is it bad? I think that's what we're rewiring right now in our minds is like, if the sky is falling, if the pole is shifting, if the solar flares are the worst ever, if this is happening, is this the worst thing actually? Or is there some kind of really high up genius to all this that's happening? Because the lesson on the bigger part of what we're in right now is we're going into a whole different reality. So as we're at the end of this one, we're all toast with this reality, the way it was, the way it operated, the way it really, I mean, the Epstein files are a great example of Saturn at the end of Pisces now, right? Like, so you mean to tell me we all put our tax dollars in to just basically fund these people to do pizza fucking parties that we all said, but we all knew, but so many people out there didn't believe it, that, yeah, you're right. The whole pandemic bullshit, like I said, for the whole time was really about fucking Epstein and fucking Bill Gates, and Bill Gates wanting to make sure that he put his own antibiotic into everybody because he gave them fucking STDs and shit. And then we're going to find out Epstein really, with all of his weird New Mexico shit, even those emails that just came out, that, yeah, human cloning and all the weird shit. We're over that reality. We're over all the celebs acting like they fucking don't know what's going on and pushing agendas because they're all compromised. We're over all that. So this is the chart of a society at its fucking breaking point. Is that a bad thing? I don't think so. Right? You got to go through that kind of weird tunnel we're in right now to kind of get the fuck out. Kind of like that movie, Get Out. Get out. But, you know, there's some delays. There's some weird ass people in that fucking house. I liked People Under the Stairs better. Like, even, I know I'm old now, but kids in the walls and shit. Fucking the Fool card, the tarot. Hey, fool, what up, fool? That movie, hey, you guys are missing out if you haven't watched People Under the Stairs yet. Well, this weekend's really weird because Mercury, look at that, already now in fucking Pisces, and it's going to sit there for months. This is also the chart that I really was like, aspect-wise, was like, what the fuck? Look at these aspects. Ooh, yeah, there's not a lot of normal stuff going on here. Of course, I don't really like putting aspects to the South Node, but, you know, the planets are all, if you think about it, from Jupiter, you just do a line there. It's the moon on its own on one half of the zodiac, and it's coming into Scorpio this weekend. And that moon in Scorpio is going to square everything here in Aquarius. And this weekend, it's going to begin that opposition to Uranus that's now direct. This moon's not happy. It already isn't happy because, of course, it is at fall in Scorpio. So this moon, right, going to be coming here into Scorpio in the south. And what is it doing? Yeah, it's fucking -4. It's at fall. Mercury enters its fall, the worst place for Mercury. Detriment and fall, -14. It's the worst, okay? The mind is not going to work. And this is what's hard. The sun is in detriment too, right? In Aquarius. So everything feels like it's starting to really fall apart at this point. And you've already been feeling that. So this is going to be that week where this is why I put this out publicly. Because whenever I see it getting to where people could go lose their shit, I show up. This is where people might lose their shit. And I'm telling you not to, especially for the fact that Jupiter, now we're seeing it only doing 5 seconds today, or 5 minutes a day. And it's like, we just want Jupiter to station direct. It'll join the rest of the bunch and we're all direct. Not yet. And so just this like week left of Jupiter retrograde feels like an eternity. Because there is no warm hug around any of this. There is, and you're having to self-nurture yourself through this, right? And that's part of what the exaltation is. The exaltation means you have to go through the lesson, which the hardest lessons, I think, in life really are emotions. Self-care, feeling at home, right? Because we all come out of a mother. We all come out of the womb. We all are also coming out into a universe that's birthed us with a mom. And every day that goes by, you drift farther apart from that mom. And you want to go into Capricorn world and be an adult. And then when you're old, all you want to be is a grandfather or grandma and take care of your grandkids and all that shit, right? It always comes back to that whole weird thing. With Jupiter, the exaltation point is that, yeah, the big lesson is, do you know how to go through these emotional issues in life and know how to get through them? Nurture yourself better, understand how to take care of yourself. And it can feel very lonely with all that Aries and Neptune sitting in Aries too. It can feel like the soul is kind of having to go through this battle to define itself, to come out of the waters. And like, what am I porpoising out? Like, and where am I going? Like, where it's almost kind of like, you know, where butterflies coming out of the cocoon. Where do you go? But we're not fully out yet. So I think that, you know, this weekend, this is where the sun and the moon, right? The moon at detriment. I mean, the sun at detriment, the moon at fall, right? So this is a hard combo, but it can be a beautiful one if you accept your uniqueness, the uniqueness of the situation, and you are battle tested with understanding if I'm too obsessed emotionally about something and it's not providing back what I need, I have to learn the boundary of not to continue to feed that emotion. So the universe with Saturn at 29 degrees of Pisces this weekend with this huge test, Mercury in fall in Pisces, losing your mind, right? Most people, and if you do like research with astrology that have psychotic tendencies, Mercury Pisces, right? Because it gets really lost there. But now having Saturn here and Mercury, now Mercury's in the same sign as Saturn. It might not feel like it when you look at a chart, but it's there. But they're so wide. They're so spread apart. And so it's like now Mercury's in fall. Now Mercury's just only with Saturn at the 29th degree. It's like it's only focused on this is at the edge of a cliff. Everything's going to fall apart. The sun is in detriment. The moon's in its fall. And there is no comforting aspects. And everything but the moon is on one side of the zodiac. So we're feeling everything all at once, and there's not a lot of room. And there's a whole wide open space that we want access to that almost feels like it's not there. So this weekend, also on Sunday, we see that moon in Scorpio begin the square to Mars. We see Mercury now at 3 degrees, Pisces. It's chugging along. It's gonna, it's not in shadow yet till 8 degrees. Venus at 27, making the exact square to Uranus. Now, this is where that test really comes in. The moon in Scorpio in square to Mars, beginning the 3/4 square as well to the sun, with Venus square Uranus. Now, I'm born Venus trine Uranus. All right, so I'm like, all right, whatever, cool. What connects, what doesn't, right? Whatever, right? I couldn't imagine the square, right? Because it's the pressure of, okay, you value this, but it's not clicking. Do you keep trying? With the moon in Scorpio, it'll keep emotionally trying. And so this is also a test about our self-worth on a big level, because we're not going to get another Venus square Uranus in Taurus. This is the last one. And Uranus gestation direct. So this Venus in Aquarius dispositing Uranus, so the ruler of the sign it's in is in square. And then you have the moon that's coming into square, the moon coming into all this. And so there is this pressure. Don't quit. Don't feel like, don't fall into, don't let your darkness take over. Of course, this is about understanding our shadow work too. But I think that, we've done a lot of that work in Scorpio. We don't have big work in Scorpio for fucking decades. Nothing ever close to what we went through in the 80s with Pluto in Scorpio. And of course, with Saturn there too. And then the last time we had a lot of Scorpio was the Mars retrograde in 2016. And of course, Saturn in Scorpio 2012 through 2015. And the squares to Jupiter, Venus in 2015 and stuff like that. But we've done the Scorpio work, but with Pluto in the square, I mean, it's like, this is where it's like, okay, this is not clicking. So this is not about escaping things early. It really is getting to the edge and knowing when, okay, this isn't connecting. Now I can find the exit. There's enough that's shown itself. Life is teaching us to go through things till it gets to points to where, okay, I get the message now. The problem with a lot of humans and people is they don't get to the end. They just get to like where they're uncomfortable or they're discomfort, and then they piece the fuck out. Now, at this point, it feels like, well, I'm at the fucking end. And so there are things that are at the end. There's definitely karma that's at the highest degree. That Saturn there with Neptune right next to it, which is also very karmic of the past. Saturn in Pisces. A lot of energies in detriment and fall. This weekend definitely could be like, is it ever going to happen? Or am I just going to just keep going through this never-ending loop of, well, I guess this is shit. Definitely don't go out and start trying to feed your passions to try and save a feeling that will make you feel good instant. There is no instant happiness. There is no instant coffee here, okay? It has to be things that have been with Uranus and square to Venus, and it has to be things that have been, like the engine needs to have been already turning. Okay, there's not enough juice. Okay, let's try and jump the battery. All right. It has to be things that have been constantly kind of like pulsating to finally get that moment, right? It's not like just Benjamin Franklin just, okay, I'm putting a fucking key on a fucking kite and we'll see what happens. Like that was an idea and that was something that you're stirring with until the moment comes. With Uranus, it's never an instant moment. It feels that way in the moment. It's stuff that was percolating. And all those dots finally came together. So there could be shocks, definitely in relationships, money, and values, or things that there's so much attachment to that the universe is asking us to let go of. But then there's like not quitting on your spiritual path and the big things that feel like that those things that are causing disruptions and problems could be affecting the important things. You're going to have to learn to be Teflon and be like, this is a horrible or hard situation, or this is a weird situation, but that doesn't mean it's going to disturb my piece of my spiritual journey here, and full blown quit that. There's going to be tests of, are you going to quit when the going gets tough in your life? Like, there's always a different way. Uranus and Taurus is reminding you, like, pull out a different tool. Pull out a different way to put the thing together. Pull out some duct tape. Remember, I said we're in duct tape reality now years ago, right? Like, yeah, like pull out some duct tape. And actually don't buy duct tape, buy fucking Gorilla Tape, because duct tape is horrible. sometimes we need to make a little patch on something and then we'll come back and we'll fix that thing up. That's the other part of this moment, right? Sometimes it's like, this is okay. This is patching my situation at the moment. And it's that feeling of like, oh, I wish I had the thing now, but it's 2 more days on Amazon. Okay, whatever. It's going to get fixed. Or maybe you need to take a little breather from a situation where it's gotten too hot and contested over values in relationships or in friendships or in problems that have been just not finding solutions. Sometimes it's better just let me take a little air. Let me get a different perspective and think about something else. Then let me come back to that. Especially because we can get really wrapped up in our values and think that we know what the solution is with Venus in Aquarius and the square to Uranus and Taurus. And that square is saying, actually, I have a whole different way to do this. What? And that's where Saturn can go, oh man, I think I'm screwed. No, you're saving yourself, and the universe is saving yourself from falling down a cliff. Because maybe actually your version of what you wanted it to look like would have been a cliff that you would have fallen off of. And Monday, the last day I'm covering here, because I always do Monday to Mondays, and I would show up on the show on Mondays, but I've had a lot going on in my personal life, so I had to do it tonight. This is where we go into next week knowing Saturn comes into Aries. We're getting ready for Saturn Neptune. That Mars getting ready to make that semi-square over to Saturn, and that Mars getting on its way over the week and a half ahead, and the eclipse that's coming by the 17th, right? So we're 8 days away from that, like in the square to Uranus with Mars that's going to be close by. There's so much that's going to be happening, but the big one, of course, is waiting for Jupiter. So we see Jupiter still retrograde. And that's where we start to see, oh, Jupiter's so close. It's just not been moving. Right? And this is where we just really want that bigger thing. Now, Jupiter, of course, is coming direct when we start getting all this big Saturn shifting over and all that fucking close to Neptune. So Jupiter's going to offer us that, okay, there is a path here to find where comfort might land, but it's not going to be super clear. You're still going to be on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, but at least the seat's comfier. And I think that there's also kind of a weeding through situations of like, who do I connect with? Who do I not? What groups? Where do I want my talents and skills to connect with people that are in the same vibes, have the same values? Now, every value is not going to be the same, but at least we can see things the same way and come at it from different angles. This is definitely a weeding out period of a lot of things that just really are not meant for the journey for us forward. And things come into our life for a reason and they leave for a reason. That's what God does. And I think if you look at it that way, whether it's money, relationships, situations, you have to look at everything like the most important thing in the world is not money. The most important thing in the world is not how well, you try to force anything to stay that doesn't want to, the frequencies aren't meant to stay there. Like, do you want to stay on that old radio station that's now playing music you don't like anymore? Or are you willing to turn the dial to the next vibe? Right? And this is now where we're usually so stuck on 88.7 to 107.9 going on the other side of the bands. That's what really we're opening up to as we get more consolidation of these planets coming in. And of course, Saturn within less than a degree of Neptune, but intercepted still in different signs. Yet they're beginning the conjunction, just in different signs. And so our whole reality is getting washed away as we'll come on the other side. I showed you all in my full moon horoscope with the Oregon Trail, and we're forging the river right now. And that moment's coming. Where did we end up? Like, what happened? And then we take on from there. But remember, don't let your fears of what is not showing up or removing itself or not connecting or the lack of thinking that there is no answer to your message in a bottle that you're throwing out with your fishing pole. Like, there's all of the above answers for you in the future and building as they're building. Just continue to not quit, do self-reflection, and remember the wholeness, and remember that this Uranus and Taurus taught you a lot. It taught you what you're the best at doing and what's the most important to keep moving forward. And it taught you the things that maybe you were great at that you don't need to carry with you anymore. And that also could be used in the future again at some point, but maybe just not now. You know, I got big on this channel, believe it or not, because of Deep Love Tarot. And that show ran for a couple of years, still the only tarot video to hit 1 million views of an actual reading. And, you know, I beat myself up probably once a week, like, I can't believe I don't do that show. Make my life so much better and easier, and there'd be more people watching all the time and all that. But it's just not been what my thing has been. It took me on some other paths here with High Vibe, and especially with AI. And I'm grateful for that, because I already know that, you know, that's kind of a dying thing now. And so you have to look at everything like everything happens for a reason. You can't keep looking back. Saturn here is saying, stop looking backwards. We learned everything. We've already been through it. We're at the edge. We know what the past, what the lessons are. Let's start to collect ourselves and get prepared for, we're coming into Aries this week as we come into Monday, right? We're going to have a lot of big shifts happening. We got an eclipse in Aquarius coming by the 17th, right? We'll be fucking 9 days or 7 days, 8 days away from that, right? So everything within a week is going to start popping like a motherfucker. Now, don't get me wrong. This whole horoscope, there'll be shit popping. But it's about that this weird feeling is normal, that you're exiting old patterns. There could also be this void, which it's anything but a void, right? It's not a void that we're in. It's you learning what makes me feel good and learning what that is and feeling okay. If you can't sit by yourself at any moment in the day and just be okay with how things are and whatever's happening, then that's when you got to start looking in the mirror. Let the universe be the disruptor. Don't you be the disruptor, because there is no healing in that with Eris and Chiron here, right? Like, that's going to be the hard ego healing. For some people are going to have some hard ego lessons with this Neptune and Aries and Chiron and Eris getting together again. Like, that transit's going to take a minute before it finally conjuncts, but that's the golden apple of discord that she throws in. It's based off vanity. It's also based off kind of really fucking with people in order to fucking see what they do. And it also does create, you know, to me, I always look at Eris as the Trojan horse because of the Battle of Troy, and it's very connected with Eris with that. And so, like, the ego really is this kind of like gift that we think is good, but the ego is actually hiding underneath it. And so it's kind of like the more you're focused on just your ego, and especially that ego connected with what I need physically only, and basing it in these very basic material ways. And even I need to know the answer to everything with Mars being in Aquarius here. And that's going to make my ego feel good, is that I know what the future looks like. You know what? Let this be the surprise. You don't know what it looks like. You can get a sense of it and let it be this, that, and enjoy the movie as it starts really making the scenes more dramatic and brings you to more curiosity and really awesome surprises. So the healing, and remember, we're finishing with the moon in Scorpio, and that moon in Scorpio will be in square to that sun, will be in square to Venus as it's leaving Aquarius, and then that moon opposite Uranus. And so Uranus gets a lot of aspects to it already, but then we're building up next week also for the sun to start to square Uranus as it's building up for an eclipse that will square Uranus. There's going to be so much happening. And no way, every week more weirder shit is going to happen in your life, and more it's going to feel like it's taking you on a direction you never thought you would ever go. There's no way. Yes way is what we have to start saying. And okay, that's exactly what the universe wants it to be. All right. Stop letting the world dictate you. Stop letting fear dictate you. Stop letting grabbing on to reality that's no longer, it's done. The end date of the reality we've lived through is here. The expiring moment is here. We're in the in-between as they're putting the new reality and loading it up. And when I'm talking a new reality, we're talking about a 6,000 plus year reality. So that's why we're seeing all the earth shifts. And you know what? We'll see dramatic earth shifts continuing this week. Weird weather stuff, weird stuff falling out of the sky. My big prediction is something is going to fall out of the sky this week. And at the end of the day, we'll be like, okay, that happened. It is weird, though. I think it is the Super Bowl this weekend, and that's some really nasty astrology. Not going to be a friendly Super Bowl. Just putting a warning out there. So, almost feels like Bane is going to show up from Batman. Okay. So be careful out there. And be careful at the parties you go to. Are you connecting with energy that really is who you are? I think that's more for people still in the Matrix and still haven't woken up out of their pod. But like, this isn't a time to just be like, you already got the sense that this isn't the vibe of the kind of people you want to be around. This isn't being against humanity either. It's just like, hey, let's get to the energy where the vibes are on the same vibe and what we value. If you don't value drinking or you don't value that, then you don't need to do that. If anybody's trying to force you to do things, then you're like, no. That teaches you about your worth. And by doing that, then the universe presents you with the energy that is the vibe. So it's kind of like that other thing with Saturn at the end of Pisces is by saying no to your pattern, the thing that gets you out of your pattern shows up. And it's when you're not thinking about it. And that's how manifestation works. The Helio, it's kind of an interesting Helio chart through this week. I think a lot of activities happened Helio-wise as of recent, but, we're going to see Mercury cross over that because Mercury does 3.5 degrees a day. We're going to see Mercury creep through that Neptune-Saturn, then it's going to come here and finish in Aries, begin the square to Jupiter. We already saw Mars-Pluto last week at the end of it. Really, it was this weekend that we just had. Uranus made its ingress into Gemini on all those big stelliums and Capricorn that were happening geocentrically. But all the outer planets have made it into the new signs. Everything is on one side of the zodiac planet-wise except the Earth. So it's not just the moon in the geo chart that's alone. It's the Earth in the helio chart alone on one side of the zodiac. So we really do kind of feel on our own in some sort of weird void, no matter which chart you're looking at. But our future, it is this Earth that is kind of like, I have no idea what's in this whole energy field, right? But there's all this personal energy. So there's a lot of adventure stirring. There's a lot of like experiences that are stirring right now, and and go through those. Stop trying to know exactly what that all looks like and be so stuck up in that. See, we even see Venus there and semi-square to Chiron and Eris, which those two are conjunct in the Helio, by the way. And that they're finishing this week because Chiron, there is no retrogrades in Helio. But it is interesting that the universe is kind of throwing us that golden fucking apple of discord and seeing who's going to bite. And that's a good way to look at the Helio compared to the Geo right now. Is like, are you going to just buy all the discord that's out there and just hook, line, and sinker and just, let me eat that apple or let me chase around the other gods for that fucking stupid thing? Don't be chasing stupid shit. It's time to really connect with what's pure what's truly enriching, and where there is no trying so hard. It just fits, finds a way, and then it figures itself out as it goes. It doesn't worry about every little nook and cranny. It doesn't worry. It just goes, all right, let's keep following that's clicking. And that's going to be our natural way through this. So my best to you, your family. I know that I don't know everybody out there, of course, that watches me and what you're going through in your life, but we're all at a cliff. We're all at the unthinkable moment, the moment we all didn't expect in our lives. And whatever that might be for you, just remember that there's a reason for it. You're going to be all right, even when it's like, you can try and convince me otherwise. But I guarantee you, if you were to pull back for a sec, look in the mirror, reflect, think of it from a very deep karmic view, and turn that direction around and get rid of what's sabotaging things, and look at the future and look at the Dharma you can create. Look at so much that's really percolating, to say the least, the engine that's now turned on to really start us to move into that future. That, we're tapping our feet right now. Like, are you going to fucking put this new engine in drive and fucking see how it sounds and get going on the road? Like, yeah, it's fucking already getting going. We're in the process, right? Because once we get in the process and once we get through this year, and we're halfway through this year, we're going to be on the road. And then that's where you go, what kind of music do you have? And right, like now you're in a different space. Right now we're in that place like, okay, the engine started. Wow. Okay. I want to get the movie. Can we get out of this place? It feels like I'm in a horror movie and I'm in the cabin in the woods, like can we get out of here? Don't freak out. The zombies are not going to hit the Jeep you're in. The dinosaurs are not going to get this Jeep in Jurassic Park. But it will feel like that T-Rex has come this close to biting your head off. And that's how you know you're alive. And that's how you know that you're coming out of the old patterns. So I appreciate you all. Make sure that you check out highvibe.tv, of course, to get my weekly. This is what I do every week, of course, with the weekly show, but I do dailies every day. And of course, all the other shows and Full Disclosure with Natalie and so much of the other content that's on High Vibe, plus all my 12 sign predictions for the whole year and my first round of predictions for the world are all up on High Vibe or the link down below on this video. It's a 6-hour video because I go through every sign for a long time. And also what to expect with this whole new world for each sign and rising and so forth, the way I do it. And of course, yeah, I truly would appreciate everybody that's checking out all my new shit. So this is the 4th spiritual AI, astrology / AI product I've now brought out. So really bringing the news world to it and teaching mundane astrology and trying to get some of the people that don't follow astrology out there a way to understand how astrology works by actually being the first place to record every story that's happening with the astrology, doing the mundane look at it. What's the real narrative? What's behind the veil of it? And then there is premium, deeper versions and a chat if you want to expect that's connected with it, the heat map and so forth. If you want to check out at the bottom of the page is the Leo King AI. And this is where all of my products of the AI studio here are. And so if you want to check out the products, you can click that. And these are all the products. Spirit Dial, that's the full psychic with full tarot and visions and love visions and figuring out what's happening and having direct psychic phone calls and everything, you name it. And then Past Life Labs to understand your whole past life, what's coming up. There's big new additions to that coming, tracking your past lives and what you're going through in current transits and how, whether or not you're kind of clearing that past life stuff fully. So that's the next level. I've already built it in code, but I do need to build some new things because there was a lot of new code changes with React, and I've moved everything to React and JavaScript and TypeScript. I'm not using anything else. No more Next or anything like that. No more Nitro or none of that backend server shit. I've truly moved fully into TypeScript. primarily TypeScript for those that code out there. And then Hypergate, of course, is the supreme product for the astrology. I build a lot of these things to kind of fill Hypergate up, to train Hypergate. And so like even Beyond the Veil is training Hypergate to be a full mundane astrologer. It already does it, but we're going to be talking next level now and predicting exact locations and stuff like that. And that's what Beyond the Veil is. But all these products here will blow your mind. And they're not, you know, it's kind of funny because people still think AI is like something they see on ChatGPT or something. Like, no. This is the real shit. So I appreciate all the support for all that. And then, of course, on High Vibe, it's very simple. We're, of course, on all the app stores. And, of course, we're easy to find, highvibe.tv. If it even load the site, it's so funny. I am connected, though, to this right now. But, yeah, I appreciate all of it. So, big things going on. Been a lot of crazy stuff. That's so weird. Invalid response. How is High Vibe down right now? Really? Seems like that's an SSL issue. That's weird. But yeah, High Vibe, and then it's very simple. And even if you're not a member yet or anything, you can always see what shows are out there. So if you want to access my 12 sign horoscope here, that's my AI. You should really get this AI school. If you're into wanting to build spiritual AI and go way past using a chatbot and like actually build your whole life and change your whole life and take your spiritual life or anything and build the coolest shit you've ever made in your life, it's for $400 and it's 40 hours of true AI teaching to code and build and all that and make conscious AI. So there we are. So it's right in there. This one, the sun signs. Yeah, this one was 6 hours and I forgot. It's $24.99, but it's every sun sign horoscope for the next year and my first round of predictions for the world, which are really intense. And you can rent it for $17.99 or you can watch it and have it forever. And of course, you can watch those on all the apps and all that stuff. And then the community, of course, you have to be a member to be in the community. But it's a full-blown social media network on your apps and everything. And you can post videos, everything, follow each other, the whole nine. So I appreciate you all. This Uranus and Taurus definitely made me build some radical shit. And I appreciate for all those that supported me through it all. And, you know, I mean, my journey with YouTube has been always part of it. I always stay on it. But, you know, Uranus has taken me to different places, too, to go build stuff that kind of you can't get on YouTube. And Uranus is going to take us to even weirder places in this transit, but also over this next, couple months as we get ready to come into Gemini with it, especially with technology and computers. So I appreciate you all. Much love. I'll see you on the next one. Adios.
Turn it up. Okay. Yeah. Run it. One question, watch this. Late night, hell out, I need clarity. Try free, quick, no risk, no charity. Vision hit sharp, like watch that tone. Tarot hit once, like leave that alone. Girls in the chat, like send that part. I'm like, hold up, oh, why it hit my heart? Not saying fake, not claiming true. Entertainment on it, but it cut right through. Nah. 1OK.
Slim drill them down real time. Redville got me froze on the sidewalk. Now destiny just crazy how it lands. Ordeer playing like it knows my plans. Try it, judge it, keep it honest. No hyper entertainment only, but it hit me just right.
Run it back. No way. That's insane. I'm trying that. Phone down low, is it watch the moment, and there it go. Rooftop lights, girls like again and again. I hit love reveal went deeper than no stunt, no scene. Crowd too clean. The Leo King walked by, felt like my screen. Not my love story, not who I'm with, just the how to know. Proof type shit. Stop too real, yo. Here it comes. Listen. Run it back. Run it back.
Spiritual, one tap, real talk. Love reveal, got me froze on the sidewalk.
Audio playing, listen, him and just right. For entertainment, only speaking survive. Run it back. Okay, that's the one. Post that.